Welcome to Sprinkle of Hope podcast with your host, Jason. And we are so pleased to welcome our guest, Morgana Rae. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really
Oh,
appreciate it.
who doesn't want to be part of Sprinkling Hope?
That's right. So, Morgana Rae is a 20-time international #1 best-selling author and mentor coach. And she is regarded to be the world's #1 authority on relationship with money, which is super cool. Her groundbreaking approach to love centered wealth building has featured her on the Wall Street Journal, Yahoo Finance, all the major television networks, coast to coast radio, and hundreds more. Morgana's fans call her the money goddess because of the many documented stories of clients manifesting unexpected income of hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million within hours of changing their relationship with money. A pioneer in personal development for over 27 years, Morgana writes, speaks, and coaches from a desire to empower idealistic entrepreneurs, artists, healers, and humanitarians to have a big impact on the world and to heal the rift between heart, spirit, and money. So that was a nice little introduction to
Yeah.
you.
Oh, look at the time. Nice talking to
you. Yeah, that was great. It kind of gave a nice little, shell of what you are. And so maybe you can just kind of talk about, a little bit of the ins and outs that I maybe missed, if there was any. And yeah, just maybe talk about yourself a little bit more.
Well, you missed the ugly before story.
Oh,
And by the way, here's a tidbit. So I'm 54, which means that if I've been coaching for 27 years, I've been coaching half my life. I just figured that out this week.
it's awesome.
Wild, mind blown. So I started coaching. I've always, since I was a kid, I had that kind of weird, sort of inappropriate talent for helping adults feel better about themselves, know their true selves, which is not what maybe a 12-year-old should be doing, but it's just this thing that I do automatically. And I had a lifetime questioning curiosity of what does it mean to be human, what are we, and what is the nature of this universe we live in, and how do we have a better experience for all of us. And I got my fancy education in world religion, just kind of wanting to understand how people approach these questions and what people believe and where those beliefs came from. And coaching just ended up being the perfect profession for me. It didn't exist when I was a kid. Glad it showed up. And I started by being a business breakthrough coach. I just sort of accidentally fell into being a business breakthrough coach in the entertainment industry, because I went through my obligatory period of being an actress in Los Angeles. It is required or they'll kick you out.
Yeah.
And during one of those dark nights of the soul, that was my entire acting career, I found this organization that coached entertainment people. And I ended up being a coach for them for about 6 years. And I loved the quality of relationship. I loved helping people, felt so much better. And I had this year of booking all these movies. Please, nobody watch any of them. And I was so miserable with getting what I wanted, but I was so happy helping other people get what they want. And I had this sort of magic touch of like, I would coach actors, writers, directors, producers for a few weeks, and they would suddenly be booking major motion pictures or TV series or selling their films or getting gigs. And after a few years of this, I asked the obvious question, I wonder if I can make money at this. And the answer was, despite a great reputation and mountains of testimonials and a really good ear for marketing because I've been helping all these other people with their marketing and the website and the tagline and the brochure, because those were the olden days when we had brochures.
Yeah.
The answer was no. And I had certification after certification after certification. I was flying out of town every weekend to learn more coaching skills and business skills and selling skills, and failing at all of it, despite everything in my favor. So I had this like Hail Mary, this is my last chance attempt to make a living doing what I'm best at, that people actually wanted me to do. And I took a class on overcoming sales objections. And that is code for, here's a script when somebody says they can't afford you or don't have time. And I'm a good student, like national merit scholar with a head injury kind of student. And so I followed the script, and 7 people in a row, I overcame their objections. And 7 people in a row didn't show up for our first coaching call or pay me. And that's when I lost my mind and my hope, and my heart broke. And I just like ran out of will to live. And anybody who's pursued anything really hard for a long time and you don't even see a way to survive. I had been funding everything on credit card debt. Not only was I not making money, I think at the lowest point, I was making $100 a month in Los Angeles, which given, my client history and testimonials and all that kind of stuff is, that's impressive. And I remember that final disappointment was just like, that straw that breaks the camel's back. And I was in my little 1-bedroom overpriced apartment in LA, pulling the blackout shades closed and getting on my bed and screaming and crying and wailing, just despair and hurt and sadness, grief and rage, because I felt like the universe hated me and I hated the universe back. And it was like a cruel joke that here, like I was good at something, and I finally, after all these years, figured out what I'm here to do, and I couldn't make a living at it, and I couldn't see any way to change it. I'd been working with coaches and taking classes and borrowing money and getting into debt. And can we also bring up the shame of telling people you can help them with their lives, and you can, but your personal life is a mess?
Yeah.
So, oh my God, I'm just like feeling that pain right now. It's coming back. So I cried myself out, which is like sinking to the bottom of the pool. And by the way, sinking to the bottom of the pool is a good place, because that's the place you can push up and come up. And when I cried myself out, I had 2 thoughts. And the first thought was maybe money needed to be my next area of spiritual growth. And for anybody from California, what a cheat that is, because, we're all such easily spiritual people. But maybe if I put scary money in this, like in the spiritual category, maybe I could deal with it. Maybe I could justify it,
Yeah.
And the other piece was I got really curious about what the heck was going on inside of me that couldn't be with money. And I'd never had that thought before, but it was like obvious on paper. Like, why was this going on? I knew so many coaches without my client results, without my training, without my experience, making lots of money, which lets you know that I'm capable of feeling superior and inferior at the same time.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So an interesting thing happened. the next day, I had a call with my coach. I, the one who's making no money, right?
Mhm.
Managed to have a coach. And I have to say, thank goodness. It saved my life and set me on this path that I'm on. This is a great guy, good coach. We were in coaching classes at the same time, like graduated, got our certifications, took our exams at the same time. And he had been trying to figure out what was wrong and help me for months. And I'm the kind of person I can do everything I'm told and get no results. And something different happened this session. First, I was in this really dark, hopeless place, which is not my normal state.
Mhm.
And he was inspired to ask a really weird question that changed my life. He asked me, Morgana, if your money was a person, who would your money be?
Mm.
And what's even weirder is I saw my money person instantly. And by the way, I'm a terrible visualizer. Don't you dare tell me to sit by the bank of a river, because I will spend 45 minutes trying to decide which river. But in this moment, I saw who my money was instantly, and I was shocked, because at that moment, my money was this big, scary, dirty, violent, terrifying biker dude. Not that, he was bald, had long sideburns, wife beater shirt, tattoos. And it's not that there's anything wrong with guys who look like that, but this guy was bad. And I could feel it with my whole body. It wasn't an intellectual exercise. Let me think. Who's
Yeah.
that doesn't work.
Right.
It was just, what? Like, woo. And I could imagine myself at a live event with my eye on him constantly to create maximum distance. And that was my big light bulb moment.
Mm.
I was creating maximum distance between myself and money 24/7, as if my life depended on it. And it didn't matter what I did. Didn't matter how many phone calls I made, how many emails I sent. I had an electronic newsletter starting November 2002. Didn't matter public speaking, enrollment sessions, reputation testimonials, or people who actually wanted to hire me. I had to protect myself from money, and that had never been on my radar.
Mm-hmm.
And it was rooted in childhood traumas.
Mm.
When I was a young child, at some point, I made a decision that money got in the way of love, and I choose love. You don't know how impactful those passing thoughts when you're a child, those little decisions that we make, set the course of your life. So it was obvious to me that there was no way that anything was going to change with this guy. And there was no way that I was going to change and let money in my life if money was that guy. So I had to break up with that money. I had to end that relationship. I had to get rid of him, which felt weird because I instantly felt this big empty space, like a hole, where money had been this constant thing in my life. And with it not there, was something I'd never felt before. And I remember having that thought, I can't leave this opening because some rando money monster walking down the street might fill that spot, or the old monster might come back. So I had this new problem, which is the trajectory of my life is you get what you want. Great. Oh, heck. And so I realized, I live in LA. I have to have a relationship with money. Who could I want so much that I would be willing to have this relationship, even if it's money, which is very different than I want a relationship with money because of like what I can get out of it, or, just that isn't going to work. That becomes a new kind of monster. As long as we give our power away to money, let money make our decisions, wait for money to rescue us, we are in kind of a disempowered victim modality. Don't. So I was coming from this place of, if you've ever been in a really bad abusive relationship, you so don't want to get back into that. So you're a little gun shy. Yeah. But the thing with money is you can't wait years to like get back into the dating pool.
Right.
Right. So I knew I needed a new relationship with money to fill this space. And so asking that question, who could I want so much? I would want this person, even if it was money. Again, and I think it's because I was in such an emotional state, and the monster felt so real, and the absence of the monster felt so real. I call the abusive version of money the money monster. It looks and feels like a real person. Rarely does it show up like a monster, sometimes, right, but not very often. Because of those prior experiences, all in one sitting, it's all happening at the same time. Because I was in that state, the new money also appeared ready-made really easily. And this person who showed up was this romantic, tall, dark, handsome, sweet guy, cute, with like clean cut and wearing a tuxedo and carrying a bouquet of red flowers like he was going to take me out on the town. And that was equally weird, right? Like, yeah. Doesn't feel like money. It feels like love. And this, in fact, it was really clear to me that he was in love with me and had been for a very, very long time. And I'd been pushing him away and breaking his heart for years, all of which was news to me. So I asked him, what do you need from me so you can stay with me? Because I wanted him to, and I knew that he wanted to, but that it was up to me, and I didn't have a clue how. So I asked him. And the great thing about asking a question, especially when you have a really vivid imaginary friend, is you get an answer. So what my money honey said to me in that first conversation was, I need you to love me and stop treating me like a monster. And the key is he was worthy of love, worthy of deep affection and respect. And I didn't want to hurt him anymore. I know that brings up the whole love of money is the root of all evil, blah, 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 blah. Love is not greed. Right. It is not exploitation. It is, all of that is scarcity monster stuff. Love does not hurt. Love is not fearful. Love is generous. Love is kind. Love is noble. Love is divine. That's the kind of love I'm talking about. So, right? So he wanted me to just love him back as a person, not as a, what have you done for me lately? And to stop treating him like a monster. And in that moment, I just thought of like every instance that somebody tried to hire me, and they would ask those horrifying questions, like, how much do you charge? Mm-hmm. And I would go, because all of this like guilt and shame about charging, this fear that I was hurting if I took somebody's money, if I accepted their money to help them, would bubble up in me. This guilt, weird thoughts like, well, Jesus wouldn't charge. Well, actually, Jesus was well funded by a lot of followers and fans, and I wasn't there. So who am I to say? So we made a deal. I promised this new money, what I now called a money honey, that next time he brought me a gift, I would say, thank you. And what that would look like is when somebody asked me, what do you charge? I would tell them. And I would tell them with that kind of love and respect of, this is my fee, and isn't he beautiful? And then allow people to hire me. The next day, less than 24 hours, 4 people contacted me and hired me for double what I had ever charged before, which, by the way, was still too low, but was very stretchy for me at the time. And I have to say that for every person who says that doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result is insanity, has not lived in my shoes. Because I didn't change my activities, but I changed my being. And your being speaks louder than anything you say or do. You can say it all wrong. And if you are coming from this place of love and generosity and integrity and caring about the other person, if they're the right person, it really doesn't matter, because they are connecting with you and you are completely focused on how can I help? And nothing sells better than that, because you're not selling yourself. You're selling this person on what they want and your belief in them and their belief in themselves, which is what a coach does.
Yeah. So what do you think is the biggest misconception or misunderstanding about money that we all might have and we can change?
Oh, I love that question. People think that money dramas, money challenges are about money. And they're not. They are and they're not. Money is this thing that we invented because it was more convenient than and more ethical than swapping slaves. I just read this great book about the Silk Roads and what we used before money. We used tea, we used silk, we used spices, and we used humans. Ew.
Yeah.
Right. So, but money is a measure of power. It's a measure of value. It represents love, worth, and safety. So these are like really sticky existential issues, which is why so much shame and taboo and weirdness and fear comes up when we talk about money, like way more than anything else you can talk about. And because it really goes to all of our deepest core insecurities. Am I loved or lovable? Am I worthy? How do people treat me and see me as worthwhile?
Mm-hmm.
And am I safe? I mean, here in the States, you don't have money. It's, you're told you don't have a right to exist. You don't have access to like basic medical care.
Yeah.
So this is real monstrous stuff. And I'm not saying it's your delusion or you made it up or there's something wrong with you. Like we all see that. We're not insane. So we have really good reasons to protect ourselves from this experience. And we unconsciously like experience money as a monster that we need. So it's a push-pull. And I've worked with people who don't make enough, don't have what they need. I've also worked with people who are amazing at making money and just as good at getting rid of it. Finding partners who use and exploit them, lawsuits, or they make money and they're suddenly the bank. Like friends and family don't see them as a person anymore. It's what can I get? All of these are really deep, painful experiences. And people who have lots who are afraid of losing, and by the way, I've coached clients with hundreds of millions and billions of dollars. They have that crap too. Fear of not having enough. I think that's why it becomes an addiction. And we have oligarchs who can't possibly have enough. Because they feel insecure too. So the most common misconceptions are that more money is gonna like fix you and get rid of the drama. It just sort of changes it. Because your relationship with money is your relationship with life and yourself. And shifting that is what shifts your relationship with money. So when I talk about the money monster, the stuff that the money monster comes from is never the money story. It is the stuff behind the money story, your experiences, your wounds. of feeling unloved or unlovable. Anything that has ever made you feel unworthy, something you're ashamed of, anything that has ever made you feel unsafe. And it doesn't have to be about money, accidents, violence, illnesses, all of that, or seeing that stuff in people you love, family members with those things. So that's where I've always found the money monster. And all of this may sound super woo-woo, blah, blah, intellectual, airy-fairy. But what I've seen is I see over and over again, and I honestly can't explain it. I have theories, but I over and over again get clients who sort of miraculously, like magic. I'm going to do Jim Henson, or who is it? That 1970s magician.
Yep.
Doug Henning, magic. Yeah, it's, clients making lots of money, like investments or people who owe them money, or things that they did that were stuck and not working, suddenly getting unstuck. I have a theory that when we are doing everything right for a long time and pursuing what we want and we're not getting it, and I base this theory coaching thousands of people and seeing what gets results and what gets dramatic results. It is my experience that, when you overachiever that I'm speaking to just aren't getting the results you deserve, you are unconsciously protecting yourself from what you want. And there are always good reasons. You're not a loser. You're very successful at protecting yourself from the threat, the danger. Unfortunately, that protection could kill you or make you miserable. By the way, I did the same process on my relationship with love and met my husband when I was 45. I met him 2 months later because I had to look at why I was like, again, taking every class, working with coaches, blah, 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 and still getting my heart broken 45 years straight, until I looked at my love monster and neutralized that. But that's for another episode. I believe change happens at the speed of safety. And it can be very, very dramatic change. It's almost like, I met my husband so quickly. It's almost like, love was trying to get in for years and years. And I've got very important walls that I didn't know about, that I didn't want. I've been searching for my life partner since I chased Robert Patterson under the piano when he was 5 years old and he was the older man. And I found my person after I made love safe. And I think that's why, my client in Idaho made over $1 million from this property that she had been trying to sell for years and years, that wasn't moving, that nobody was even looking at. And a few minutes after our coaching session, somebody made an appointment, looked at it that day, and it was closed by that weekend. So things happen.
Yeah, I almost think, as you're talking, we could almost duplicate that, like you're saying, in love or in, any facet of our life. And I think it's just like you're saying, what is it that we have built up inside of us that's putting up those walls or those barriers to the things that we really want? If we want a bigger house or a better family life or whatever it is, right, in life, I think it's what walls have we built and not allowed that relationship with that thing or with that situation to really foster and be able to grow.
And I would look at your wall building with a lot of love and affection. Now, I do not subscribe to the perspective that you are your own worst enemy or you are your own saboteur or any of that. That doesn't make logical sense. Like, every part of us exists to protect the host, the entity, us. It's just parts of us may have picked up practices that kept us alive 30 years ago and don't now. And do not have compassion for the monster.
Right.
When, the monster, when you I haven't really gone through the steps. I went through my story. First step is uncover the root cause, which is, and I was talking about this, anything that comes up for you as you're looking around for the root cause, it's always going to be things that made you feel unloved, unworthy, and unsafe, anything. And you just want to like build a court case against life in the universe to the point that it's like, not so far that you like re-traumatize yourself or
Sure.
dissociate. Because I've encountered that dissociation with a client and we just had to dial it back and make it safer. It's not necessary to harm yourself.
Yeah.
Just build enough that like, wow, no frickin' wonder. Stuff, make it personal, really focus on your own experiences. And then you can like add some stuff out in the world that really triggers you too. And when you have enough, then we imagine there's a person who is responsible for all of it and has been doing it to you like a puppet master. If you had awful parents, this person used your parents to hurt you. And this becomes your monster. And the more real it is, the better. Sometimes a client will come up with something very cartoonish and I will steer them away from that. By the way, I'm just trying to cram in like 20 something years of what I've been doing. So if you're listening or watching, have some kindness for yourself. You're not going to get it all in our little meeting, but I'm going to try and give you as much as I can. But one of the things I noticed is when it becomes cartoonish, that's sort of a way of protecting yourself, making it less real. And we want to make it real feeling. And then when you have this very real person that I call the money monster, then you destroy it like bloodbath. And I appeal to the peace and love crowd, the love and light, light workers, right?
Yeah.
So there comes a point where it's either you or the monster.
Yeah.
Only one gets to survive. And when you choose yourself, you reject everything that the monster represents, and it does not get to exist in your life experience anymore. And you want to annihilate it to such a thorough degree that there are no bloody bits that can reconstitute into a monster and come back. So it is kind of a sacred warrior energy. And we've got goddesses and gods and archetypes throughout human history for that, whether it's Saint Michael or it is Durga from India, there is a real kind of sacred energy to this does not get to exist. And it's all imaginary. So you aren't actually killing anything.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Disclaimer. No monsters were actually killed in the making of this podcast. That's step 3. Step 4 is you get to meet your money honey. Step 5 is you have a conversation with your money honey, which I demonstrated. Step 6 is you take concrete, measurable action, the kind of thing where I could call you up on Thursday and say, did you do it? And you did. Because action is magical, especially if you want real physical results. And it doesn't have, the action doesn't have to be about money, but it's something you and your money honey agree on. And that is when the results happen. I have all these experiences of clients who made that agreement to do something that seems totally inconsequential, like go skating. And Katie and her money honey was like, yeah, I like that. And it's dead of winter, December in Ontario or one of those really cold Canadian places. And she didn't do it because she was so worried about making money. And she was working so hard that she put it off the first day. Nothing happened. Same thing. Day number 2, I don't have time to go skating. I have to make money. Nothing changed. Day 2. Day 3, she went skating with her son, had this beautiful heart connection, lots of fun, came home. Somebody called her and gave her $10,000.
Wow.
And that was just the beginning of her generation. I have another story with Janet Brightmeyer. I have lots and lots of stories like that. So those are the 6 steps. And why did I go through that? Well, I mean, I had to include that, but there was a context leading into it that train has left the station. I can't remember. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's all good.
Like Jason was talking about, we've talked about money, and you hinted a little bit on your love and that you found that, but I could see that this can apply for anything. If we see it in a different way and we destroy that bad part of it and then nourish the good part of it, that anything in life can change. I could see that. I think that was really good.
People usually come to me for money pain. Like
Mhm.
money is the pain door
Yeah.
for transformation, like life transformation. But sometimes during the course of coaching, I will get an intuitive hit. I'll just be watching where somebody's emotions and energy is coming up. And we might pivot to a love monster because that has more juice,
Mhm.
or a success monster,
Mhm.
or even a God monster. And the results are sort of holographic because it's all kind of the same dynamic, because it's our relationship
Right.
with life and our relationship with ourselves. I also believe that all money issues are love issues when you dig deep enough.
Hmm.
Am I loved? Am I loved by life? Am I loved by other people? Am I loved by myself? Do I want to be here?
Mm.
All of that gets tied up into this money knot.
Wow, that's awesome. This has been really fascinating. I like how you put it. It gave me a good visual, and hopefully everybody listening will kind of have that visual in their mind and create a better relationship with money and love and whatever it is that they're dealing with in their life. This is awesome. I love this conversation. So right near the end of our podcast, Shane and I, we do a thing called the double down dose. And what it is it's 2 questions. I'll ask one and then Shane will ask a follow-up question to that.
So you're going to gang up on little old me. Nice.
We're coming after
you. So the first question, because we love to talk about hope. And so what is your definition of hope, or how would you define it?
Oh, good question. So I would say that my definition of hope is a deep belief or choice to believe in a benevolent universe.
Mm.
That choice, and I was teaching this to a room full of Chinese clients a week ago. That choice, that reality is that things are happening for you, not to you, that reality is actually your friend, even when it doesn't look like that.
Mm.
That's good. So you ready for the second part of Double Down Dose?
Yeah, it's happening for me. It's happening for me.
So
Go ahead.
This question we love to ask, because I think so often we don't think on a deeper level. So the second part of Double Down Dose is simply, how would you define love?
Oh, I love that. Okay. First, I'm going to steal from my husband, who I think is quite the expert on this. And he likes to say that love is a verb, love is an act, and that act is service. So my definition of love is it's a certain quality of generosity. It is that kind of that feeling that all is right and beautiful with the universe. Sometimes it is a choice to look for the best in a person, even when you want to kill them. I say that as a married woman. And finally, I think more than anything, it is a joy of being alive. Like it is, for all of the ick that comes up with being incarnated, in this little like bodysuit that we have, that's the payoff. That is the reason for it. And oh my God, I'm getting really long-winded because I just remembered this sort of spontaneous, non-dualistic experience I had years ago. I get these. This is why I don't do drugs, because to add drugs to this would be like too much. But I had, and this happens occasionally where I have this like, whoa, the veil is lifted, and I'm seeing this sort of hyper reality. For those of you who were worried that I wasn't woo-woo enough. And I had this experience of just existence, like reality, but just the very fact of existence at all is love. That
yeah.
anything exists instead of doesn't is just love, that the nature of the universe, of us, of consciousness, of the fabric, of like the totality, but mostly just like the consciousness of the whole collective of existence, it is love. That we are separate beings. The only reason for that is so that we can learn to love each other and find the me in you. So I think it is just that it is life itself.
That's
Very
awesome.
fascinating.
Yeah, it's great. I love it.
We love asking those two questions. You played it perfectly. You do like almost every person, and you paused, thought for a second, and really, that's why I said we don't think about that on that level that you thought about it. So we appreciate asking that question and getting all these different answers. Is just fascinating. Morgana, thank you so much for your time today. This has been such a great discussion. I've learned some things that I feel can help in my personal life, and really want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. Before we go, because I really do believe in service and continuing education, and I really, I try to cram in everything I can. And if
Right.
anybody listening, like, takes away 5% of what I said in the nuance, because I see there's like a video out there from somebody who loves me and is describing my work and gets it all wrong, but I'm not going to criticize her. So
Right.
I invite you to go to morganarae.com, my website. It's just my name plus a .com, all one word. And it's bursting with resources to help you and answer your questions. There's a,
Awesome.
4-part video series. There's a money love quiz. There's a blog. There's my book. And, just if you find yourself stuck or you want to go deeper, I'm not expecting anybody to get it on the, on the first hearing. So go to morganarae.com so that I can serve you more. Thank you.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you for that. And I hope people take you up on it. So thank you so much, Morgana, for coming on with us today. This has been really, really insightful for me. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for the great questions.
We love asking those.